Good morning. Good morning. Glad you are here again. Happy New Year. I want to make certain that the conversation we start off with today, the first business day of the new year, really focuses on setting you up for success in 2022. You know, I don't know where you were specifically in terms of your goals personally in your personal life, as well as with your business, ultimately, for many of you. Whether you achieved all of your goals, some of them or none of them, really, at this point, none of that matters, because we're all starting with a clean slate in the new year. And what I want to make certain for you, as well as me, is that we are starting off with a clear understanding as to what it takes and give ourselves an advantage to succeed at achieving our goals. Now, I'm absolutely certain that you have set goals, because if you're part of Everest, of course, we talk about constantly having goals, setting goals. We all put together a business plan for 2022. So I know you have goals. The real question is, okay, how are we going to achieve those goals? Ultimately, what is going to be necessary? What are we going to have to do in order to achieve those particular goals? So I want to start off by just simply talking about formulas. And, you know, if you want to be a top producer, in other words, if you want to have what a top producer has, a lot of productivity, closing a lot of transactions, making a lot of money, then you have to do what a top producer does. And if you're going to do what a top producer does, you have to mentally be what a top producer is. Everything always starts with the mental approach. Okay, am I a top producer? The answer is either yes or no. Some people might say, well, I can't say that I am a top producer until I actually close on a lot of transactions. And I'm here to say that's not true, because it doesn't begin by you doing a lot of transactions and then therefore you being a top producer. In order to be a top producer, you have to believe that you are. That's the only way to become a top producer. So being a top producer starts with the mental approach. Then we're going to do what a top producer does. And then as a result, we're going to have what a top producer has. Well, the best thing that we can do is simply follow a formula. Now, why a formula? What's the benefit of a formula? What are the benefits of a formula? Well, I think there are many benefits, but rather than me giving you all of them or some of them, I'd like you either in the chat box or take your mute off and just shout out some of the benefits of following a formula. Bernadette, I saw you're there. I saw Brandon, you're there. Stephanie, yeah, thank you. Structure, okay. Yeah, a formula provides structure. And don't we all perform better with the structure? Okay, what else? Okay, yeah, David, it gives us a target. Okay, there's accountability. I love all of those answers. In other words, okay, it gives you the steps. Yeah, in other words, there's great benefit to following a formula. Yeah, it gives you a plan to execute on. It's like a map. Yeah, Lynn, exactly. So you've all basically said it. I want you to write down 4 things. The first one, in terms of what are the benefits of a formula? Number 1 is pathway. Write the word pathway down. Provides a pathway. And then if you want to, next to that, write down the word direction. It provides direction. See, I firmly believe that you're going to perform better on a daily basis if you have a pathway, if you know what direction you should be going. The more clear you are about the pathway, what you should be going, the direction you should be going, right? The more clarity there is. And I always say this, with greater clarity, you act with greater power. So a formula allows for that. It provides a pathway to achieve what it is that you want. So that's number 1. It provides a pathway. Number 2, certainty. Write down the word certainty. Certainty leads to increased confidence gain. The more certain you are about something, the more confidently you act about that thing, the more knowledgeably you act about that thing. And when you act with greater knowledge, with greater certainty, with greater confidence, you act with greater intention. I want you to think about that. Think about the things in your life that you're absolutely certain of. How confident you are in those things, the way you do those things, your knowledge of those things. And examine your behavior. Examine the way in which you conduct yourself relative to those things. Because we all have things in our lives that we're absolutely certain about. And as a result, we act with great confidence. And therefore, as a result of that, we act with great intention and we get good results from it or great results from it. So formulas provide for certainty. And that certainty leads to confidence. And when we act with greater confidence, we act with greater intention. And when we act with greater intention, we get better results. The third thing that I want you to write down is predictability. One of the great things about a formula is that it provides for predictability. In other words, predictability in terms of what to do, when to do it, and the anticipated or expected answer or result. See, and if you engage in activity that provides that sort of result, right, predictability, consistent answers or results that are anticipated, well, you're more likely to actually do that thing. You're actually more interested in doing that thing. You're more excited to do that thing. If I said to you, for example, 5 times 5, what would you say? You would hopefully say 25. If I said to you 10 times 10, you would say 100, right? That's just simply a formula. And because you know the formula, you can confidently give the answers. But if I said to you 10,552 times 675, you wouldn't offhand know the answer. But because you know the formula, you could take the time to calculate it. If you didn't have a calculator, but you had a pen and a paper, you could actually write it out longhand and you could calculate the answer. And see, that's the beautiful thing about it. If you have a formula and you follow it, you'll get the right answer, as long as it's a proven formula that actually works. It's not a question in most cases as to whether the formula will work. The real question is, will you work the formula? And that's an important statement. Let me say that again. It's not a question of whether it is the right formula or a workable formula. The question is, will you work for the formula? Will you do what you need to do to make the formula effective? Because see, 10 times 10 is always 100. The only way you come up with a different answer is if you put in different numbers, expecting to get 100, and those two numbers multiplied don't equal 100. So you have to follow the formula to get the right answer. And that is true in life, gang. It doesn't matter what area of life we're talking about, whether it's our business, in our relationships, or with our health. In all of those arenas, we can find and leverage formulas. And if we will follow them with consistency, we will get a predictable outcome. So the next thing that I want you to write down is duplication. Because see, that's the other benefit of a formula. A formula provides for a duplication of outcome. See, it gives you predictability. You can predict that if I follow this formula, I'm going to get the right outcome. And if I follow it consistently, I'm going to get that right outcome with duplication over and over and over again. And here's the cool thing about that, that if I get the right result, the result that I want over and over and over again, I begin to build momentum. I want you to think about that. If, for example, I decided that I was going to eat a specific nutritional plan that was designed to help me lose weight, and I did it day 1, I'm probably not going to see any immediate results. But if I add another day to that, and then another day, and then another day over, say, a 3 to 5 day period, I'll probably start to see some results. I might lose a half a pound, maybe a full pound. See, that's the great thing about it. Duplication leads to momentum. So if I do the right thing today, tomorrow, the next day, and the next day, and the next day, that begins to build momentum. And it's like the good book says, that you reap more than you sow. You put so much effort in, and the beauty about the universe is that it will give you back more than you put into it. It's the very reason that people will invest in stocks, for example, right? If you invest in the right stocks, you actually get more than what you put into it. It's called the compound effect or momentum. Okay, we can get that in the business of real estate. We can get that in our personal lives. So I want you to write this down. A schedule is a formula. A schedule is a formula. A schedule is a formula. And then I want you to write this down. Today started last night. Today started last night. So gang, what I want you to recognize is that here we are, day one of the first business day of the new year, and you have the opportunity to begin to either leverage this formula called a schedule or to improve upon it if you already have one to make certain you're doing the right things. See, the only difference or the thing that separates you from where you are to what it is that you want is engaging in activities that will allow you to have the life that you want. In other words, it goes back to what I said originally, to the be, do, have. If you want to have what a top producer has, or you want to have what somebody who is in amazing physical condition has, or you want to have what someone has when they're in a great intimate relationship, then you have to do what those people do. And you have to be the person who does those things. And the surest way to have that happen is to make certain that on a daily basis, piecemeal, step by step, baby steps, just in the moment, today, not a week from now, not a month from now, not a quarter from now, not 6 months from now, not December of 2022, but just today. You know, they say, how do you eat an elephant? Well, the most effective way is one bite at a time. It's really the only way to do it. So many people get overwhelmed and say, well, I got to do all of this year. No, you don't. Just do this today. So my rhetorical question for you is, did you follow a well-designed, intentional schedule in 2021? Did you follow it every single day? Was there room for improvement? Did you maybe not follow a schedule and just let things happen? See, what most people will do is they will let events dictate their schedule as opposed to them designing their schedule and determining when events were going to occur. So I said, write this down. Today started last night. Well, John, what do you mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is this, that the time that you went to bed dictated the amount of sleep that you are going to get during the night, because for most of us, regardless of what time we went to bed, we have to get up at a specific time, because whether we have kids or a spouse, or we've got to get up to take care of business, clients, and so forth, or just simply to start our day. You know, if you're an average, well-adjusted person, you got to get up. So today started last night. I just want you to think about that. I want you to remember that, because then I want to go over something that I think is really important that becomes a very effective formula for your success in life if you'll just simply follow it. It's called a schedule, by design, with intention. So if you would, just on your notepad or in your journal, just draw the Benjamin Franklin T graph. It's just basically a T. And on the left side, I want you at the top to write business. Just write business up at the top. That's the title of the left side of the T graph. Again, I'm going to share with you what I believe is one of the most effective schedules in the business. And you may resist this and you may tell me, well, I don't like that, or it scares me, or it doesn't work with my personal schedule. And I get all of that. I'm just suggesting, if you want to set yourself up for the greatest amount of success, try to stick to the schedule as much as possible. Okay. So the first thing is this. I'm not going to tell you exactly what time you need to get up. I'm not going to tell you if you should be exercising in the morning or in the evening or in the middle of the day, although I would strongly suggest that you do exercise. I'm not going to tell you how much you should eat or when you should eat, because that varies depending upon what you're trying to accomplish, but you should be getting consistent nutrition and high quality nutrition. Setting that aside, I want to just discuss what happens in business. So whatever time you're going to get up, make certain that you give yourself enough time to get to the office by 8 o'clock. Well, why 8 o'clock? Well, because 8 o'clock is when this starts, morning ascent. And I firmly believe that this is the best way that you can start your day in the business, by focusing on your affirmations, by setting your intentions, and being part of a great conversation that's going to build your skill sets and also improve your mindset. See, your competition's not doing this, and the average person doesn't do this. If you'll do this consistently, I promise you, not just once in a while, but consistently every single day, it will give you an advantage, and you'll begin to build that momentum that we talked about, because that's what formulas provide. They help you build momentum. And when you have momentum, you act with greater intention and you get better results. In other words, you reap more than you sow. So get into the office at 8 o'clock and watch this and participate in this morning ascent so that we can work on our mindset. We can work on our skill set. So from 8 o'clock until the time that we finish this, which is usually around 8:30 to 8:40, somewhere in that range, and then use the remaining time to 9 o'clock to focus on your skill sets, to focus on the scripts that you're going to use in terms of the listing conversation or the buyer broker conversation or the prospecting conversations that you're going to engage in that day today. All right. Professionals will practice their skill sets. They do it consistently. You look at any professional who's paid a high amount, you look at all of the professional athletes, all the actors and actresses, the performers, the singers, the dancers, they all perform their routines and their scripts. And gang, we are performers, because when we have a conversation with a buyer or a seller, we are performing in that we are communicating with them. And it is our job to communicate in a way that is powerful, that is confident, that allows them to feel confident, to feel safe, secure, to know that if they work with us, that they're in good hands and that we're going to lead them to what it is that they want safely and securely. They need to feel comfortable. And the better communicator that we are, the more confident that we are, the more we know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, the more likely it is that they're going to choose us versus the competition. So it's really important that we start our day working on our mindset, working on our skill sets of communication, working on setting our intentions. So that's from 8 to 9 o'clock. And then from 9 until noon, gang, we should be building our relationships, discovering new ones and building the relationships that we already have. In other words, we should be prospecting. We should be talking to people. Gang, remember this. I just want you to think about this. Real estate is not about homes. It is for buyers and sellers, but for you and me as professionals in the business, it is about building relationships. It's about discovering new ones and building those, and it's about building and growing the relationships that we already have. It is absolute nonsense to believe that we're going to be highly productive with predictability and duplication, that we're going to earn a lot of money in real estate if we aren't consistently reaching out to people and building those relationships. Real estate is not a retail business anymore, gang. It is a direct sales business, which means that we have to go to the people. We have to get to them, because more than ever before, I remember when I was in the business in the beginning, nearly 30 years ago, people had to come to me. They had to walk into the office. They had to come to me because they didn't have access to the MLS book. It was a book. There was nothing online because there was no internet. If they wanted information, they had to come to me. They had to come into the office. Well, that's not the case anymore. 99.99% of the information they need is online. The only thing that they really need us for at this point is to take them through the process of making an offer and overseeing the escrow process, which are big deals. Those are significant things. But we never get an opportunity to do that if we aren't consistently going out there and finding those people and building those relationships. So gang, do you have it as part of your formula for success in 2022 to consistently talk to people? Because if you don't, I can just tell you, you're following the wrong formula and it's not going to work. Because there are formulas out there that simply do not work. I see it every day. I've seen it for 30 years, agents who use formulas that don't work. That is why 80% of the people who get into the business of real estate don't survive and they're gone within 24 months. Because they're trying to use a different formula because they don't like the proven formula. Well, gang, instead of trying to change the proven formula and deciding whether you like it or not, just follow it and let it do its job. It's a beautiful thing. And if you will, I promise you, you're going to get the results that you want. And it's so much easier if you're doing something and getting the results to want to continue to do it. It sucks when you're doing something, you're not getting the right results. Well, gang, if you're using the wrong formula, you're not going to get the results and it's not going to be fun. But if you follow the right formula, as much as it might be excruciating, as much as it might be painful to talk to people and have them reject you and say mean things or call 50 people and not have a great conversation, as much as that's painful, if you'll do it consistently, I promise you, you'll get the right results. So from 9 to noon, you should be building those relationships, prospecting and following up. What I would suggest is that for the first 50 minutes, you're calling, and then take a 10-minute break. And then for the next 50 minutes, you're making those calls and then taking a 10-minute break. And for the next 50 minutes, you're making those calls and taking then a 10-minute break, and then segueing at noon into a half an hour lunch. From noon to 12:30, take a lunch. And then at 12:30 to 2 o'clock, now's the time to do your admin. This is when we return voicemails, text messages, emails, and then prepare for the appointments that we would have, showings, listing conversations, or buyer broker conversations that we have that day. That's what should be happening from 12:30 to 2. And then once 2 o'clock hits, then we would attend appointments. And if we don't have appointments, then we would go back to prospecting. Now, gang, I know that some of you are listening to this and saying, well, I don't know how that's going to work for my schedule. I don't understand. I'm not comfortable in prospecting for 3 hours, or I can't believe that, you're suggesting that I wouldn't immediately get on my email or check my texts and check my voicemail and call those people back in the morning. Well, gang, the reason I'm suggesting that is because if you begin your day doing those things, you'll start your day doing those things, and you'll never get to the prospecting. You'll never get to the follow-up. You'll never get to building the relationships, because all of those other things are easier to do and are always readily available and calling for your attention, as opposed to starting your day doing the most difficult thing and then getting to the things that aren't as difficult that you're more likely to do. Brian Tracy talks about this, and if you haven't read the book, get it. It's called Eat That Frog, and he talks about prioritizing. He says instead of eating the tadpoles would be email, text, voicemail. His suggestion is eat the toad. The toad would be prospecting. Eat the toad, because what most people do is they'll fill up on the tadpoles, and then when they're done eating the tadpoles, emails, voicemails, texts, doing all of that, exhausting themselves and all of that admin work, they say, well, I've done my job. No time today for prospecting, so I'll do it tomorrow. And then they do the same thing tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that's their formula. And their formula leads to disaster when it comes to productivity. It doesn't allow for predictability and duplication of the right outcome or the right answer. And then they're baffled as to why they're not producing at a high level in the business of real estate. It's because they're following the wrong formula. So I know it may cause you some uneasiness in the pit of your stomach that I'm suggesting that you would prospect for 3 hours, including your follow-up, and starting your day with that and making that primary and making emails and texts and voicemails secondary. But gang, I promise you, if you will take that approach, you'll get massively better results than you have gotten. Now, let me just finally say this, because we're out of time. That is your decision as to whether you're going to follow that schedule or that formula. Could you tweak it? Yes. Are there modifications that might need to be made based upon your personal situation? Yes. But if you can maintain the integrity of working on your skill sets, your mindset, practicing your scripts, and prospecting for 3 hours and getting that done, everything else being secondary, at least in terms of the business, I promise you, you will be successful beyond your wildest dreams in the business of real estate. The question for you that I have is, are you willing to follow a proven formula? Or are you going to spend your year, 2022, using a formula that you've used in the past that may not have worked, or trying to invent a formula that's different than the one that's proven and hope that that will work? Okay, I've been in this business long enough to know that because real estate is a business where we are self-employed, we are our own boss, that is a blessing and it is a hindrance. It's a blessing because it gives us the opportunity to earn as much money as we want to choose to do the right things, and when something's not working, to pivot, to change our approach. But it also means that we have the choice of not doing the right thing. Even though we know what to do, oftentimes choosing to do something other than that and getting results different than what we want. So my question for you is, will you follow a proven formula? I've handed one to you. If you want to get great results, if you want to get better results than you ever have, then follow that formula. And I don't care how you finish the year, whether you finished with great momentum or you didn't. We've all started with a clean slate, and we get an opportunity to begin today to follow a proven formula. All right, gang, let's finish this up with some closing affirmations. Great job in being here.